Studio Ghibli is widely considered to be the best when it comes to making anime films. Their unique approach to storytelling and the themes portrayed in their stories can be traced back to one mastermind. His name is Hayao Miyazaki. Known all around the anime industry today, but his rise to the top wasn't done alone, and it wasn't overnight. Hayao Miyazaki was born on January the 5th in 1941 in Tokyo City. He had an interest in animation from an early age and joined Toei Animation in 1963, working as an in-between artist. This is when he first met Isao Takahata, a director's assistant who also worked at Toei. Isao Takahata was born on October 29, 1935, in Ujiyamada, now Ise in Mie Prefecture, but compared to Miyazaki, it wasn't until Takahata's time in the University of Tokyo when he watched the French film The King and the Mockingbird that he became interested in animation. Although it wasn't animation itself that he was interested in, as he was more interested in directing rather than animating, and that's when he applied for a job at Toei. While Miyazaki worked as an animator on Toei's other projects, Takahata would direct his first feature-length film, Horus, Prince of the Sun, that ended up as a financial failure. The failure of Horus and both of their desires for more creative freedom led to them leaving the studio, and in the time before creating Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki and Takahata moved to A-Pro in 1971, where they co-directed Lupin III Part 1. In 1972, the two will come up with Panda, Go Panda, short projects directed by Takahata, with Miyazaki providing the screenplay and designs. It was a precursor to Studio Ghibli's style, with the cheerful, kid-friendly tone helping lay the groundwork for Ghibli's future storytelling. After moving again to what is known now as Nippon Animation, both Miyazaki and Takahata worked on the World Masterpiece Theater series, where classical books were adapted. Miyazaki and Takahata worked on 3 series between 1974 and 1979, Heidi, Girl of the Alps in 1974, directed by Takahata, Marco, 3,000 Leagues in Search of Mother in 1976, directed by Takahata, and Anne of Green Gables in 1979, also directed by Takahata, before leaving its production. In the time that he worked on the World Masterpiece Theater, Miyazaki directed the television series Future Boy Conan in 1978, an influential TV series that showed his talent for world building and character development. It was in 1982 that Miyazaki began serializing Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind in Animage, a monthly anime and entertainment magazine. In 1984, Miyazaki directed 6 episodes of Sherlock Hound, a project that was a collaboration between TMS Entertainment and, interestingly enough, an Italian broadcasting company named Rai. But once the manga for Nausicaa gained popularity, Tokuma Shoten, Animage's publisher, suggested adapting it into an animated movie. Miyazaki was initially hesitant, as the manga wasn't finished and he didn't want to create something solely for commercial success rather than for artistic expression. Tokuma Shoten convinced Miyazaki that they would provide the resources and creative freedom he needed, and with Takahata joining him on the project as producer, Miyazaki was reassured. Toshio Suzuki, an editor at Animage at the time, also played a key role in securing funding and managing the project. He would later become important when he'd produce most of Miyazaki's movies for Ghibli. Now animated by Topcraft and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind was released in Japan on March 11, 1984. With a budget of 180 million yen, the film adapts only the first 2 volumes of the manga, but it was a commercial success. It won the Ofuji Nobudo Award at the Mainichi Film Awards, an annual award given to people who have made a notable contribution to animated films. And after the film's release, Miyazaki continued the Nausicaa manga, officially completing it in 1994. Now, Miyazaki and Takahata wanted to continue making films that were timeless and meaningful. They wanted to demonstrate that animation could be more than just entertainment for children, and they often felt limited by commercial demands and wanted greater control over projects, which is what led to Studio Ghibli's creation after the success from Nausicaa. With many of the key staff members who worked on the film, including Miyazaki, Takahata, and Suzuki, becoming the core of the studio. Miyazaki chose the name Ghibli, referencing the hot desert wind from the Italian word and the nickname for Italian reconnaissance planes in World War II. The name symbolized their desire to blow a new wind through the anime industry. The studio's first official project after its founding in 1985 was Castle in the Sky, a film directed by Miyazaki and released in 1986 that was inspired by Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels and is a movie considered to be a classic. But the creation of their first project wasn't easy treading. They had many problems. Ghibli was still a small company, and producing a feature film required a significant budget. There was also immense pressure for this film to succeed to ensure Ghibli's future, and the studio had to build a team. While some animators from Nausicaa joined Ghibli, the studio was still small and had to train a whole new team. Ultimately, with a budget of 500 million yen, the film was a moderate success, earning 1.16 billion yen. The studio's next films were both released in 1988 and produced at the same time, with Miyazaki directing My Neighbor Totoro and Takahata directing his first Ghibli film, Grave of the Fireflies, that was inspired by the short story of the same name written by Akiyuki Nosaka, but also inspired by his own experiences from the Okayama City bombing. The double production was due to concerns about the success rate of Totoro, and it stretched the studio's resources, putting a lot of pressure on the teams working on them, considering how they also had to shift between two very differently toned projects. Totoro initially made 588 million yen in the box office, while Fireflies made 1.7 billion yen. It was obvious that one was more successful than the other, but both are beloved now, with Totoro being a massive merchandising success and Fireflies gaining status as one of the greatest anti-war films of all time. Ghibli's next film would come out just 1 year later with Kiki's Delivery Service. It was directed by Miyazaki, and it was based on the 1985 novel of the same name written by Eiko Kadono. After the intensity from Grave of the Fireflies, Miyazaki wanted to make a more accessible film, which is what led him to the creation of Kiki. Their biggest difficulty with the project came with the flying sequences. As they were working in the 1980s, the team had to use a variety of techniques to make the movement appear smooth and natural, but it paid off with the film earning a box office of 4.4 billion yen, and its success helped cement Studio Ghibli's place as a leading studio in the industry. 2 years later, in 1991, came a film from Ghibli directed by Takahata, titled Only Yesterday. And like his previous film, it was for an older audience. The themes in this movie will continue to influence Ghibli's future works, with Whisper of the Heart and The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. It earned about 3.2 billion yen, making it a moderate success, but still made less than Kiki. 1 year later, in 1992, came Porco Rosso, directed by Miyazaki. That was another film exploring the impact of war on a human who was himself involved in the war as a pilot. It had a limited release internationally, where it resonated with older audiences, and it became a cult favorite outside Japan. The film brought in 2.2 billion yen in Japan, and while again not being as successful as Kiki, it was still good. In 1993 came Ocean Waves, an outlier in Ghibli's catalog. It was a movie produced for television and a somewhat experimental project. It wasn't directed by Hayao Miyazaki, but by Tomomi Mochizuki. It was a more grounded film about love and adolescence, and it showed that Ghibli wasn't confined to a certain type of genre. The year after that, in 1994, Ghibli went back to their theatrically released roots, and directed by Takahata came Pompoko, a more political themed film that addressed environmentalism, with tanukis being the main characters. It surprisingly grossed 4.4 billion in Japan, making it a success on the level that Kiki was. In 1995, the first theatrically released Ghibli film, not directed by Miyazaki or Takahata, came out. Although it was still produced by Miyazaki, Whisper of the Heart was a directorial debut from Yoshifumi Kondo, who was a key animator at Ghibli. Just like Ocean Waves, it wasn't a fantasy like Ghibli's norm, but a film focused on everyday life, with themes exploring one's purpose in life. Miyazaki provided mentorship during production, inspiring the Baron, a figurine that became so popular that it was later the main character in the 2002 Ghibli film, The Cat Returns. The movie ended up earning 1.2 billion yen in Japan, making it a quiet gem in their catalog, but a film that fans of Ghibli can still appreciate. In 1997 came a movie directed by Miyazaki that would become the biggest hit for the studio at the time, Princess Mononoke. With complex action sequences, detailed backgrounds, and requiring a much larger team and budget than previous Ghibli works, it was their most ambitious film yet. Dealing with themes such as environmental destruction and the blurred lines between good and evil, Miyazaki wanted to make a film that addressed real-world issues head-on. The movie earned 19.3 billion yen, making it the highest-grossing movie in Japan at the time. It also earned the Japan Academy Prize for Picture of the Year in 1998 and helped establish Miyazaki as an internationally recognized director. In 1999, Takahata would release his second-to-last film for Ghibli, titled My Neighbors, the Yamadas. It was an episodic comedy that revolved around the daily life of the Yamada family that has a distinct art style and is influenced by traditional Japanese watercolor painting, with simple, childlike character designs. It grossed 1.5 billion yen, which was low given the studio's previous work, but there's still Ghibli fans who appreciate its charm and originality. 2 years passed, and in 2001, a Ghibli film directed by Miyazaki would release that is widely considered today to be one of the greatest animated films ever made, Spirited Away. The film's themes of personal growth and family resonated with audiences of all ages, with a depiction of Japanese folklore and spirits also helping with its success. The movie also made use of traditional hand-drawn animation as well as CGI, blending them in a way that felt seamless and natural. The film grossed 30.4 billion yen, passing Princess Mononoke and Miyazaki again making the highest grossing film in Japan at the time. It won the Golden Bear Award at the Berlin International Festival in 2002, but more importantly, the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2003, making it the first anime film to ever win an Oscar. Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki would continue to see success, with Howl's Moving Castle in 2004 earning 23 billion yen and being one of Miyazaki's most celebrated works. In 2006, Hayao Miyazaki's son, Goro Miyazaki, would have his directorial debut for Ghibli with Tales from Earthsea. It had mostly negative reception because of its pacing and lackluster storytelling, but it was still visually stunning. In 2008, Miyazaki would direct Ponyo, a reimagining of The Little Mermaid that would earn 155 billion yen and again be the highest grossing film in Japan at the time. In 2011, Goro Miyazaki would return to Ghibli and direct From Up on Poppy Hill, a movie that was better received for its emotional storytelling and earned 5.3 billion yen. In 2013, Takahata would direct his final movie for Ghibli, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, a retelling of the Japanese folktale The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, that was acclaimed for its unique watercolor style animation. Also in 2013, Miyazaki would join Takahata and direct his final feature film, The Wind Rises, a biographical drama about the designer of Japan's World War II fighter planes that earned 120 billion yen and served as Miyazaki's farewell to filmmaking before he would later return. Takahata continued to work at Ghibli, working as an artistic producer for The Red Turtle in 2016, until he was sadly diagnosed with lung cancer and died on April 5, 2018 in Tokyo at the age of 82. There was a ceremony in honor of his passing that was held at the Ghibli Museum, where Miyazaki spoke publicly, saying, "I was convinced that Paku-san, Takahata's nickname, would live to be 95 years old, but he unfortunately passed away. It makes me think my time is also limited. I'll never forget about the first time you talked to me at the bus stop after it rained. Thank you, Paku-san." During Miyazaki's time away from directing films, he would oversee activities at the Studio Ghibli Museum, where he curated exhibitions and created short films such as Bodo the Caterpillar. Despite his retirement announcement, in 2016, Miyazaki announced he would return to filmmaking to direct a film based on a 1937 novel, How Do You Live by Yoshino Genzaburo, that people now know as The Boy and the Heron. It won many awards, with the most important being the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, making it the second anime film by Miyazaki to receive this award. Miyazaki continues to work today, with Goro Miyazaki revealing at the Ghibli Museum that Hayao Miyazaki is working on a new project that could become his next film. The stories of Miyazaki and Takahata are of perseverance and hope. They had dreams that they achieved together, and are talked about today because of their hard work in changing the anime industry. Their works changed lives too, and they deserve to be honored. Rest in peace, Isao Takahata. If you stuck around, thank you for watching the video. Consider liking and subscribing if you want more content just like this. But see you guys in the next one. Peace!